the fourth lord in the 12th house. Okay, so I was reading a female's birth chart and I was like, damn, I'm putting so much information. I might as well turn some of this information into a video. So, who knows? People may see how good I could read a birth chart and then start paying me. I don't know. But I just felt like this was some good information to share. And nobody will interpret this placement like I will. So if you see others, especially on Tumblr, doing so, then you know who they got it from. Things of the fourth house go into the 12th house. So it's like these two houses merge together. The fourth house is your mother, and your mother is in the 12th house places. So that is where your mother goes or often is, which makes her be in a different country outside of the USA state or country you were born in. For example, you could be born in, let's say, London, England, but your mother may still live in a different UK territory outside of England. So she may live in Scotland or Ireland. Other places your mother can often be are jails, prisons, and hospitals a lot. She may be in prohibited places a lot. So you know how people have jobs where they work military a lot. Therefore, you can't be in touch with them or physically. Displacement increases that possibility with the mother. I made a video, but this is a foreign settlement placement where you can end up living outside of the country or USA state you were born in, since homes and vehicles go into the 12th house places. So you end up having to live in a different country. In some cases, it could be you actually living in a jail, hospital, or a prison. Some people live in asylums. No joke. It makes me wonder too. The 12th house might actually relate to old folks' home, but I'm not so sure. That might actually be the 6th house. Hospitals and prisons are a place of residence for a lot of people. It all depends upon which planets you have in the 12th house or the planets you have conjunct your fourth lord. When it comes to vehicles, people with displacement, and I studied this with previous clients, but they end up getting the most expensive vehicles. You know why? Because their vehicles are coming from different countries and overseas. Literally, so if you have this fourth lord in the 12th house placement, you might end up shipping a vehicle over from Japan or Germany. Even if you go to a car dealership, they might have you waiting for 2 weeks because they want to ship your vehicles over. It happens. Remember, the birth chart isn't a one-time thing, but a regular occurrence throughout life. So you may have displacement and then would say, oh, well, it hasn't ever happened yet. Who knows? Eventually it may will. Or you may say, that only happened once, it won't ever happen again. Next thing you know, boom, the right entourage happens, and that same sequence can play out again in your life. In rare cases, a vehicle can come from grandparents, paternal aunts, or uncles. When I say paternal, I'm talking about your fathers, brothers, and sisters. Maybe you just drive their vehicles. Or maybe they are often in your vehicles catching a ride with you. Displacement increases the chances of having to go through lots of car repairments. Literally, I read someone chart one time and He wasn't even driving the car. His car was parked in his driveway, and someone actually crashed into it. So it costed him a lot of money just to get it repaired. You are gonna have to spend a lot of money on vehicles. I think displacement has a lot to do with going into accidents. The reason this happens is due to the 12th house having something to do with losses, as some people say. I look at the 12th house as the house where we spend unnecessary money. So this happens with your vehicles, homes, and household appliances. Even your home appliances you end up getting from different countries. So you ship in a lot of stuff. Maybe you buy a stove from Amazon or from a USA company that is in America, yet you are currently living in, let's say, England. You may not recognize it as well, but you may not live in the birth state or country you were born in. You may have been born in Texas and now live in Chicago. So you may undermine this placement and what I'm saying, but in actuality, it still happens with you. This placement increases the chances of you using Airbnbs when traveling to different countries. I think too, since the 12th house is prohibited places like Area 51, then throughout life you may end up living in those neighborhoods where they have big gates. Even your place of residences, like sleeping over at a friend's house, may have those big gates in front of their property. Actually, the 12th house is also about the water due to the Pisces influence. So you may live or stay at beachfront properties, or you may have properties where there are pools in the backyard. Even this is the case for those that live in those like condominiums and apartments in New York City. They still end up having pools in their backyard. If you were to get into spirituality, then spiritual practices take place in your homes or vehicles. A reason this happens is because the mother is connected to the house of spirituality, so she might actually be a spiritual person. Another thing as well, since the 12th house represents things like drugs, alcohol, smoking, then depending upon the planet that is in the 12th house, the chances of you having things like alcohol and a high supply of it being in your house is very possible with displacement. Shoots, even if Saturn was in the 12th house and is your 4th house lord. The planets in your 12th house would just explain your attitude towards alcohol consumption. Do you limit it? Do you use it a lot? Do you smoke a lot? Etc. This is an easy placement if you want to see someone who would have sets in a vehicle in his or her lifetime. A downside of displacement, there are many downsides actually. For example, your mother is connected to the house of sets, drugs, smoking, and alcohol, which may mean your mother is an alcohol consumer. Now, an alcoholic, I never tested it, but certain placements, like if Rahu is conjunct your 4th lord or ruler, would cause it. Your mother might actually walk in on you having sex or masturbating with this placement. Remember, I mentioned Airbnbs earlier. So obviously, we have sets in homes, but you traveling and staying in Airbnbs may have to do with you wanting sets Obviously, the reason for that is very simple. Households go into prohibited places, and these prohibited places are connected with sets. Yeah, this is the have sets at homes, in vehicles, and hotels placement. Shoots. Some guys even have sexual intercourse in prisons. I could very well be wrong though, because the 12th house is more so dedicated for foreign settlement. Who knows? Another downside might be your mother spends a lot of money. This isn't a downside, but your mother has an increased chance of always being around your grandparents or your father's brothers and sisters. I can't remember. I think the 12 house is about the paternal grandparents. Since I mentioned paternal aunts and uncles, even your grandparents, then those people may often stay in your homes or home environments. So if you live in an apartment, they might live in the apartment too. Your emotions are better expressed when you are alone through drug consumption and masturbation slash sex. Unless something like Saturn is in the 12th house, which would limit it. Some women cry during orgasms. I'm not advocating for the usage of drug consumption because I don't even indulge into those things like drinking alcohol and stuff like that. But if you observe people that are drunk, for example, they start crying out of nowhere. Anyways, follow me on the other apps. There will be more videos to come.